I bought tickets to go and see him. I was fortunate enough. I didn't know where he was going to be performing the whole tour. So we bought tickets down in Auburn Hills, Michigan.
Okay.
So we drove down to Michigan and got a hotel there, and my wife and I saw him there, way up in the 300 level.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, and then I was just like a dog on a bone trying to get tickets for pretty much every concert that was local. I'd love to see him in Europe,
Yeah.
um, and thought maybe once we retired, I could go and do that. So maybe,
Well, fingers
but
crossed, right?
yeah, fingers crossed for maybe 2022. I don't know.
As I've shared multiple times, I try to do some episodes in advance in case something happens where I get ill or I run out of people to interview. However, in my urgency to record shows in advance, every once in a while I misplace an episode, and that's what this one is. I talked to Pat on Super Bowl Sunday, of all things, and I had it in my archive, and somehow as I started editing and scheduling, I missed it. So this was supposed to go up during Friendship Month. However, I misplaced it. So here is a great discussion with Pat talking about his friend, his friend's love of Bruce and his love of Bruce. And I apologize to Pat that it was so delayed. Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Set Listing Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson, and joining me today is my new friend, Pat. He's going to share his Springsteen story as we're recording this. It is Super Bowl Sunday, and we've already talked a few minutes about Bruce's Jeep commercial. And Pat has a story about, this is Friendship Month. And unfortunately, his friend is no longer with us to join us, but Pat is going to honor his friend and tell a couple of stories. So, Pat, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks, Jesse. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to visit. We've already talked a few minutes, and as we say down south, you seem to be good people. So, tell us a
Thanks.
little about yourself.
Well, I'm Pat, born and raised in Ontario, Canada, living in Ontario, Canada today. Um, 62 years old, just retired this last August, so have lots of time to travel to Springsteen concerts, if there would ever be another one, hopefully next year.
Yes,
Um,
that's our hope.
yeah, so no, I just saw you, follow you online on Twitter, and saw you were looking for friendship stories, and thought I had a pretty cool one about a friend of mine named Randy, co-worker actually, worked out of our Washington office. And like you said, he passed away a short time after getting to see his last Springsteen concert in Washington in 2016. But pretty cool story leading up to it. So I thought I'd share it with you guys.
Well, I'm so glad you did, and I appreciate it. I always love, um, I always love visiting with people that find me online. Usually I'm the one. In a lot of ways, Pat, this is being a podcast host is like being a insurance salesman. You're always prospecting, right? You're always looking for your next guest. So when someone reaches out and says, "Hey, I want to join you in the podcast," you're like, "Oh, a treasure! Yay!"
Well, this is my first ever one, and maybe my last. Who knows? But
Well,
anyways,
hopefully you'll have fun and you'll want to come back.
yeah, for sure.
So let's start out with where did you grow up? Where, and was there a lot of music in the house when you were a little one?
Yeah, so kind of central Ontario, a little bit west of Toronto, a
Okay.
small town. still know a bunch of my buddies. We chat regularly on online, on texting, that I went to high school with. Say in my family, you know, my parents were actually, I was the youngest, so I was my parents were quite a bit older than me.
Hmm.
Well, then, yeah. So I was. They were later on when I was born. So you know, Tom Jones. But I can still remember sitting and listening to the and watching the Ed Sullivan Show and listening to the Beatles. My brothers were quite a bit older than me as well. So you know, I got some of their music when I was growing up. High school, it was kind of like Bowie and um, you know, Rush and Kiss, and saw those
Yeah.
guys in concert locally, and a little bit of Springsteen, but wasn't until later that I got uh, somewhat obsessed. So
So you and I are the same age. I was born in 59. So graduated high school in 77. I grew up, my dad was in the army. We moved around a lot, but by the time we settled in eighth grade all the way to high school, it was in Louisiana. And so we were a little small town. AM top 40 radio was what I listened to all the time. So you and I have a lot of the similarities. I was a huge Kiss fan in high school. I
yeah,
just loved Rock and Roll All Night. And
yeah,
um, I don't know if you ever did this, maybe just because I was a geek. Uh, when you get a cold and your voice is kind of scratchy, you always wanted to sing Beth.
oh
Like,
yeah,
okay, now I
yeah,
could be cool like Peter Criss.
yeah, yeah.
It's a common story around us, Pat, that siblings either they influence you for the type of music you like, or sometimes if you're the older, you influence the younger. And other times people tend to rebel against their older siblings' music. But it sounds like your older brothers helped you develop your taste in music.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, you know, my brothers are 13 and 15 years older than me, so um, by the time I was in my teens and so on, they were moving out of the house. But you know, I can remember the Moody Blues and Santana and like I said before, the Beatles and you know those. So, but I mean, I listen to. If you were to look at the Apple Music that I have in my collection, it's a little bit of everything. Like you
Yeah.
know, it's country, and I growing up I listened to a lot of folk.
Hmm.
Bruce Coburn. There was a there was a there was a local band, Terry Jones and Cedric Smith in Stratford, Ontario, and they're kind of hippies, and they had a band called Perth County Conspiracy Does Not Exist, and it was, you know, we went to you know, bluegrass festivals and things like that. So I'd say probably of any of my I have two brothers, of any of us, I'm probably the most you know, fanatical about music. I played guitar a little bit when I was in college, and I
Hmm.
played bass guitar in a band when we were in college, and we used to play folk houses and things like that. And I actually just after I retired, I had sold everything. So after I retired, I went out and bought a bass guitar and an amp and things like that. So I'm going to try and pick it back up and play with some buddies here and here in town, and hopefully get back into it.
Oh, that's great. That sounds really a lot of fun, and I love that idea. Um, of doing it. Earlier in this month, um, I I have I don't know in this when this episode will end up coming out, but a couple weeks ago I interviewed two guys who ended up both being named Scott, but they met in summer camp and fell in love with Bruce's music. And then when they graduated college, they kind of found each other again, and they've remained friends.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so I think that's neat that you're still texting with some of your buddies from high school and still see them, and that's great.
Yeah, we get together for there's a 12 of us that get together golfing every June. We didn't do it. The golf course was closed last
Sure.
June, and we're hopeful for this one, but I'm not sure. Depends
Yeah.
on where we all are with the vaccine and stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, there's all 12 of us from high school still get together for a weekend of golfing, and beer drinking and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, I've always been jealous of that. I'm not very close to any of my high school buddies, though. When I went to the high school reunion we had a few years ago, I guess it would have been our 40th. Saw a lot of people, and it was lovely. I think it's great, and I've heard other stories about that, like getting together for a weekend and golf during the day, poker at night,
yeah,
a lot of just joking and laughing and just camaraderie. So that
yeah,
sounds really lovely.
yeah. No, it's awesome. No, it's awesome. I look forward to it. Hopefully, we get to do it this year.
Yeah. So I meant to ask you, how are you doing with all the COVID? Are you guys staying safe? Is everything
Oh
okay?
yeah, no, everything's locked down. Yeah, we've been, my wife and I, just living here by ourselves. We have two daughters who live in the same town as us. They both had babies in 2020, so we've actually been still getting together with them occasionally because they need help with the
Sure.
things. So yeah, in fact, they just my granddaughter turned one last Sunday and my last Saturday, and my grandson uh, turned one just yesterday. So no, it's 2020 was. I mean, it's tough to say 2020 was a bad year. We had two grandchildren born. I retired. We hopped in the truck and pulled a trailer out to Alberta and went and saw some of my wife's relatives out there, and I've got a daughter that lives out there. So it was 2020 was, I mean, it's tough as it is. You can find a silver lining in just about anything if you look hard enough. So
What kind of trailer?
we bought a 25-foot Jayco. We had a trailer when we were first married. It was a
Hmm.
small, I think it weighed, well, I think it was built out of 3/4 inch plywood. It was so
Yeah.
heavy.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know, a 1972 Wilderness, but this is a J Feather, a lot lighter. First time towing it a long time, but it took us 5 days to get out there. We took 7 days coming home, and yeah, it was. So we got to do that in 2020. Don't know if we'll be doing that this year.
Hmm.
Things in Canada here are like it's Ontario is locked down solid. They're
Yeah.
doing basically stay at home kind of order, and no restaurants or stores or anything
Yeah.
open. So
So what's interesting, Pat, is that's my day gig. Excuse me, I had to sneeze.
yeah.
My day gig is I work for a company that offers roadside assistance for recreational vehicles.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and so our summer is always busy.
Yeah.
I started a new job in January. I mean in February. So um and but so many people have bought RVs
Yeah. Yeah.
because it is a really safe way to travel during this pandemic.
Yeah.
So we were crazy busy.
Yeah.
So
We bought our trailer in late August.
yeah.
Well, mid-August, I guess. And we headed out on I think August 29th or something like that. We headed out west. But they were saying that they had sold 3 times as many RVs in the month of August and July than they normally do. It's just crazy busy. But you're right, it's safe. I mean, other than stopping for gas, and I had arranged all the campgrounds on the way out. So other than stopping for gas and the park offices, we had enough groceries to get all the way out there, and we just basically stayed with my wife's brother, so my brother-in-law
Yeah.
and his wife while we were there, and just yeah. So we felt we were, it's the safest way of getting out there for sure.
It really was. We made the joke that it was the summer of RV because it was busier than we've ever been. And then my boss kept telling me, he says, okay, it will slow down, Jesse. Right.
Yeah.
And then he says, usually after Labor Day. And it didn't slow down in September.
No.
And I
No.
mean, a little bit, but not really. And then in October, it wasn't much slower. And I was looking at my boss like, okay, like, what's going on?
When does this slowdown
Yeah.
happen?
And so the summer of RV became the autumn of RV. And then probably toward the end of October and definitely by the 1st of November, it crashed. you know.
Mm.
But we're already ramping up for spring break, and we think it'll
Yeah.
be busy. So
Yeah.
that's great. I'm so glad you had fun, and that is a great way to go visit and visit people. So that's wonderful.
Yeah. 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 It was good.
Are you excited about teaching the grandbabies music?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, like I said before, I bought a bass guitar here. They've been down a couple times, but they're a little bit scared by the sound that comes out of it right now. But yeah, oh no, it'll be, no, we're playing music for them all the time. It's amazing how much of a sponge
Oh yeah.
their kids are. They just love it. They just love it. In fact, I we 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 helped my daughter when she brought our granddaughter home back last. I guess it would have been first day of February last year, and the first thing I put on in the car when we picked her up was "Waiting on a Sunny Day." So that's the first music she heard. So, anyways, so
You're preparing for in like 8 years, like
that's right.
Bruce is touring at
Absolutely.
78. Like,
Yeah.
okay, go get on stage.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
I love that. That is so wonderful. Well, can you remember when your fandom of Bruce went to a more passionate level?
Well, I was digging out I got a box of albums the other day, and I actually going to frame them. I've got a Greetings from Asbury Park and Born in the USA vinyl covers that are in pretty good shape. So, I mean,
Nice.
back, certainly back in the 70s and 80s, I listened to it, but it really was when he started to tour back in 2014 or so. He
Okay.
did this 2014 and his 2016 tour, so
Hmm.
the River Tour in 2016. I bought tickets to go and see him. I was fortunate enough. I didn't know where he was going to be performing the whole tour, so we bought tickets down in Auburn Hills, Michigan.
Okay.
So we drove down to Michigan and got a hotel there, and my wife and I saw him there, way up in the 300 level.
Sure.
But yeah, and then I was just like a dog on a bone trying to get tickets for pretty much every concert that was local. I'd love to see him in Europe,
Yeah.
and thought maybe once we retired, I could go and do that. So maybe
Well, fingers
about,
crossed, right?
yeah, fingers crossed for maybe 2022. I don't know.
Yeah. Was that the first time you saw him, Pat?
It was, yeah, yeah, yeah. That was the first time I saw him. My wife saw him years and years ago out in Western Canada, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the first time I saw him there. And then since then, we've seen him in Toronto twice. So he played in the open air stadium
Yeah.
once, and then at the in a auditorium, Air Canada Centre in Toronto.
So I make the joke, and it's only halfway joking, right? There's two kinds of people. The people go to their first Bruce show and go, boy, that was long. And the others
Yeah,
that go, oh my goodness, how do I get to go do this again?
yeah, yeah. I'm in the
So
latter category.
it sounds like it. That's great.
Absolutely. The last concert we saw was in Toronto. So my daughter and I went. She lives in Toronto, and by the time I got the tickets on the
Yeah.
website, the best tickets available were behind the stage, and they were like, I don't know, it said like 17 rows up.
Yeah.
But little did I know that they remove a bunch of seats behind the stage, right? So we were in the first row behind the stage, dead center behind Max, and it was an amazing perspective. So we were dead center behind the stage. You could see the entire auditorium in front of you, and you could see what he was seeing, the band was seeing, and they came back a couple of times, but it was great. It was just fantastic.
I've heard from other people that actually that is a really good view, because
Mm,
he usually will go back and wave, but you see the whole band and that
yeah,
perspective. And usually there's a monitor so you can kind of see as well. So
yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I've heard
yeah.
that.
No, it's
Yeah.
yeah. So, anyways, on I just posted a couple days ago, I think on Twitter.
Yeah.
Came up like it was like exactly 5 days since the February the 3rd concert in Toronto, or
Hmm.
5 years
Yeah.
since the February 3rd concert in Toronto. in 2016. So I've got a bunch of pictures on there.
Oh, good. We'll have to look at.
Yeah,
What's your
yeah.
Twitter handle?
I think it's at Pat Enright or something, Pat
Okay.
M Enright or something like
Okay.
that.
All right. I'll double check and make sure it's on there.
Yeah.
Um, so you sound like you've been a fan of a lot of music about it, but can you articulate what about Bruce kind of spoke to you and why that passion?
Um, well, I love the rocking sound, like the rocking sounds, particularly when, he's playing, his guitar, and or Neil's or Tom Morello are playing, in Ghost of Tom Joad, or, in Youngstown or things like that. But I think more so it's the storytelling, um, and I, it's, well, you talked a little bit about the Jeep commercial. I
Yeah.
mean, just 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 the way he, the way he can describe things in his voice, and he does it in his songs. I'm desperately looking forward to seeing his live performances of his two new albums that came out during the pandemic. I mean, because
Yeah.
they are such, the he just describes things so well.
Yeah.
We never got to see him on Broadway, but fortunately enough, they had it on Netflix, so we did
Right.
see it, and it's just amazing. Like, he just brings songs to life. He brings events to life. He brings life experiences to, he makes, I just think it provokes thought, whether or not it's his um, events or yours. You can think of things that maybe happen similarly in your own life. So anyways, it's kind of the storytelling, I think, is more than anything.
I think you're absolutely right. So, you'd reached out to me and said that you had a story you wanted to share um, about a friend of yours, a coworker. So, why don't you take us through that, Pat?
Yeah. So um, I working here in Canada, we had a fellow that I got to know. We talked Bruce. He was a huge Bruce Springsteen fan, and Randy's his name. He was based in our Washington office, um, and he was just he's one of those guys that you just never forget. He had a positive outlook on everything.
Hmm.
Um, and then he got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer back in 2014, I think it was, um, and he went through some tough times, some tough tough chemo, and just everything that goes with battling cancer, such a terrible disease. Um, we would always, even when he was off, we would be chatting back and forth, and he'd be saying, "Hey, did you see this?" Or "Did you see Bruce Springsteen's doing this?" Or "He's got his own, look at this video." And
Hmm.
I think his favorite song was New York Serenade.
Okay.
But anyways, we got chatting back in late 2014. It was just before Christmas, and I was asking him. It was because I had just set up a command post to with various computers, trying to get tickets for the 2016 concert in Toronto, and
Yeah.
I asked him whether or not he got tickets to go see Washington. It was one of the first concerts in the River Tour.
Hmm.
On the 29th of January, and he said no. He was going through some experimental therapy at the time.
Okay.
He had up days and down days. He said he didn't want to get the tickets. He if he felt well enough, he would go down and pay whatever the scalpers would charge him to go see the concert in Washington. Um, so I got thinking. I was sitting in my office, and I thought, well, that's just not right. He Randy served in the military. Served from 81 to 87.
Mm.
After 9/11 happened, he re-enlisted.
Wow.
He was stationed in Iraq,
Mm.
and he survived, physically, probably
Yeah.
not mentally, but so anyway, so I got on the internet and I was looking around and I found, like, didn't know, who to reach out to. I just thought, is there any way I can buy tickets? Of course, it was sold out by then.
Hmm.
So I reached out to, I think it's in like an ad agency, Shorefire Media, and
Okay.
said, hey, can you help me? Can you put this in the hands of somebody who might be able to, sell me tickets? And I'd kind of forgotten about it. It was back before Christmas. Well, in,
Yeah.
kind of mid-January, I get a telephone. I gave him my email address, of course, and my
Hmm.
telephone number. Well, I get a phone call from a lady at John Landau Management.
Mm.
And she says, hey, is your buddy, Randy, are you still looking for tickets? And I said, yeah, we are. Like, how can I buy them? And she says, no. We saw his story, and we'd like to get him these tickets. So they offered either pit tickets or tickets in the stands, and his health wasn't that great, so we
Hmm.
got 2 tickets in the stands. And him and another co-worker from that same office went to the concert on. There was some sort of backstage, meet and greet or something like
Yeah.
that beforehand. I don't think he saw Springsteen, but I don't know if he saw any of the others. Hey, he
Yeah.
was he was just ecstatic. He went to the game. He went to the concert on January 29th. He was texting me through the concert. He was sending me pictures of, Bruce crowd surfing in Hungry Heart, and
Yeah.
the other fella that went with him just said he just had such a great time that night. And it was well, it was the last time he saw him. He died in July of 2016,
Mm.
unfortunately. And he's just one of those guys that, like I said before, he's one of those guys with a great positive outlook. You remember him, you never forget guys like that. And I think it's just such a great story that he got to see, we got to see that concert. I don't know how many concerts he had been to before. I mean, we
Yeah.
weren't real close, but we did chat back and forth. And I mean, good on the management team. I'm
Right.
sure they get thousands of requests, and I almost hesitate to mention it because it's not for the ones that he does it for; it's the ones he doesn't do it for. And but I thought that was pretty special for them to, recognize a 2-time veteran, somebody going through cancer treatment at the time,
Yeah.
and just getting them to see that show. So, it was pretty cool.
Pat, I love this story, and you're right. It, there is so many people that, how do you determine if you're, the management team, who do you help and who do you not help? And, but you can only do so much. And I think it's just lovely that they were able to help your friend, um, you know, give him a bright spot, um, and just candidly very close to the end of his life,
Yeah, yeah,
and I, I- I'm so glad that, you know, you, you took that extra step. And I know you don't think this is a big deal. You just did something nice, but I think you should be proud that you took the extra step and said, hey, because as you and I were talking about before we hit record, you weren't looking for free tickets. You're like, hey, I'll buy his tickets. I just
absolutely.
need to be able to find a way to get them.
Right.
And I'm just, that's, as you said, good on them. And what a lovely story.
Yeah, no, it was pretty special. And the folks I spoke to afterwards, I mean, he
Yeah.
was really appreciative.
Yeah.
He sent emails to the person that arranged for the tickets, and he was like just ecstatic. But it's like he forgot about everything just for one night. So it was pretty good.
There is a small little charity here in Texas, in Dallas. Um, Mark Holtz was the longtime radio voice of the Texas Rangers, our baseball
Hmm.
team,
Hmm.
and he died of cancer. And his daughter and son-in-law have a small little charity, and what they do is they buy baseball tickets for a family with a child going through tough disease.
Hmm.
And it's just a simple little one night. We're going to give them a chance to go to the ballpark,
Hmm.
have them have some soft drinks and hot dogs and watch the game. And just maybe for a day, you don't think about everything that's going on. And, and I think there is a lot of great charities out there that are fighting for cancer and AIDS and all these heart disease and leukemia and just on and on and on,
Hmm.
trying to find cures, trying to work for things. And I applaud all of that. But I think there's something just a little beautiful about, I'm just going to make one day better. I'm
Yeah.
going to make them smile one day and maybe you can forget. So I am glad Randy got that. And I'm so happy that I'm so glad you shared it with us. That's
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah. Well, no, it was a special day for sure.
Yeah. So you already mentioned that you're teaching your grandchildren. Yeah, waiting on a sunny day. Are there other songs or albums that mean a lot to you that you kind of go to routinely to kind of help you through tough times or help you celebrate or you find comfort?
Well, I mean, probably my favorite album is The Rising.
Okay.
Um, songs like You're Missing. I mean,
Hmm.
what a, you know, I mean, it brings tears to your eyes. You can just see, the heartbreak,
Hmm.
for people who were affected, either on that day or afterwards.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I love Greetings from Asbury Park. Actually, his new song, If I Was a Priest. I know that, or I've heard that it was written back at the time he was putting those songs together for his first, the Greetings
Hmm.
album, and so it kind of brings you back. His latest album, kind of brings you right back to the beginning. So,
It does,
some of the
doesn't it?
some of the goofy, just Spirit in the Night, and those kind of, anyways, that's yeah, probably The Rising is my favorite album.
So I've been able to see him not anywhere close to a lot of people, 15, 16 times. And the only song that he's played in every show has been The Rising.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And, I love that song and I appreciate it. Um, yeah, it obviously sounds like you love Western Stars and Letter to You.
Yeah, I mean, Western Stars took me a little bit longer to, get to like.
Okay.
It was quite a departure um, from some of the other stuff, but I love it. I would say Letter to You was appealed. The appeal came quicker.
Sure.
So it's just such there are songs on that album that I can't wait to see live.
Yeah.
So it's one of those ones that um, whether or not it's a rocking song or it's a quiet song, they're going to be fun to see live.
I absolutely agree. I'm looking forward to hear Burning Train, Ghost, Letter to You,
Yeah,
If I Was a Priest, just on and on and on. It just and then, I'll See in My Dreams just brings me tears every time I hear it.
yeah, 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 for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, what have I not asked you that I should have, Pat?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, I mean, I don't know. It's, I look at, I consider myself a fan.
Yes.
My wife thinks I'm obsessed.
Join the club.
I listen to music all day long. Whether or
Hmm.
not it's Bruce Springsteen or U2 or like I say, my music collection and I have music on from the time I get up till the time I go to bed, all
Hmm.
the time in the car. So I just love music. So, um, but I don't, I consider myself a fan. But I haven't like you. I mean, I've seen them 4 times.
Hmm.
All in the last decade.
Yeah.
So, when I see other folks who are saying, I've seen them 30, 40 times, I'm envious.
Yes, me too.
I wish I would have uh, gotten the bug uh, decades earlier. But
Yeah,
anyways, never too late to get the bug. So anyways,
absolutely. Well said.
no, no, it's good. It's good. There's a lot of, and it's amazing, looking on Twitter and looking at, all of the people who are Bruce Springsteen fans. But it's amazing, like what you're doing here, bringing out stories of friendships. I mean, there's people that have known each other for decades that follow each other around and go to concerts, and they only know each other because they've bumped shoulders in the pit 30 years ago. And it's just amazing to see how that's happened. um, I'm sure there are equally um, other bands who people follow, religiously. Um, but um, but I don't know that there's any that follow bands or people as religiously as Springsteen and the E Street Band.
It
Um,
it it doesn't feel like it. I agree with you. It just feels like, and maybe because I'm so in the middle of it, you know, I I've had over 600 episodes on this podcast.
hmm,
I've talked to hundreds of Springsteen fans from around the world, and I'm sure that maybe there are U2 fans, Grateful Dead fans, David Bowie, you know, certainly the Beatles have a passionate fan base, but
yeah,
it does seem like there is something about us Bruce fans, and just maybe it's his longevity, maybe it's the different. He keeps reinventing himself.
yeah,
He keeps
yeah,
pushing himself. I mean, as we talked about earlier, there was a lot of debate. Oh, is he going to do this commercial? Oh, is he going to sell out? A
yeah,
couple of people were like, oh, I hope he doesn't. This is once again, he's, Broadway, and now then, you know, having Apple, the documentary on Apple Plus, and then you see what he does, and it's all about finding a middle ground and trying to bring the country together. Um, I just always say we should trust his instincts
yeah,
because the guy kind of knows what he's doing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm he's set himself up though. These 4 hour concerts,
Yeah.
they're getting to be expected. Um, and
Yes.
I wonder when we come back out of this and get to the first concerts, whether it's 2022 or whenever it
Yeah.
is, how those concerts will be structured. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, he's just timeless. I mean, back, the the good thing about E Street Radio on Sirius is,
Yes.
you can listen to concerts from '75, and you can listen, to the latest concerts in 2016.
Yeah.
And it is pretty timeless.
It is going to be funny, right? He's going to do a 2 hour and 58-minute concert where you go, why so short? When
Hmm.
every other band does an hour and a half, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe there'll be
So
an intermission. Maybe there'll be an intermission.
yeah, maybe so. He will I do know that at my age, it is hard for me to go that long without taking one bathroom break.
For
So I don't
sure.
know how he does it. I guess because he sweats so much.
I guess.
Yeah.
I
So,
guess.
all right. Before I let you go, I've got to ask you the Mary question. So if you are a friend of Pat's and you're listening to this podcast, you're going, "What the heck is the Mary question?"
That's what I thought.
Oh, okay. So Jay Armstrong is an honors English teacher in the Philadelphia area. He just recently retired, but he would take his honors English class, his seniors, and they would take 2 days and they would break apart Thunder Road as a poem. They'd go
Yeah.
through all the lyrics, they'd look at all the imagery Bruce is doing, they talk about the themes, and at the end of the 2 days, he looks at his class and says, "Does Mary get in the car at the end of Thunder Road?" So, Pat, that is your question.
Ah, does Mary get in the car? Um, no, I don't think she does.
Okay.
No, I don't think she does. I think it's, I think, like many of his songs, whether he sings about, uh, happy things or sad things, they're all life things. And yeah, no, I don't think she does. I'm going to listen to it again, though. Now that
Okay.
you've asked me that question, I'm going to listen to it in a lot deeper. I'm going to listen to it.
Well, if you end up having more thoughts, just reach out to me and um, I can leave you my voicemail where you can leave your thoughts, or we can schedule real quick. Like, okay, I have some more thoughts.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
what's funny, 60-40, 60% of the people ask the question say she gets in the car,
Oh, yeah.
about 40% say they don't.
Hmm.
So,
We'll
and
never know.
yeah, I thought about that I would love to ask Bruce. But even that would not give us the answer because
Yeah,
that's just his opinion. And just because he wrote the song doesn't mean he knows, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
that's great.
yeah.
Pat, I hope you had fun. This was
Yeah,
great.
no, this is good. No, it's
Yeah.
like I said, my first time, maybe my last. I don't
Mhm.
know, but I'm first time I've ever shared that story with, about Randy and about the tickets and about the Washington concert, other than, close family and a few coworkers at work who found out about it and said things like that. So happy to do that. He's, like I said, he's just one of the nicest guys I've ever met. And
Mhm.
he was taken from us too soon by a terrible disease. And my thoughts and prayers go out to everybody who's battling that terrible disease.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just thought when it came up, and it came up earlier in the month, and I said, I don't know, I don't know if I'm up to doing this. But then you sent it. I saw you on Twitter, and you sent it out again and saying it's not too late. So I thought, you know what? Um, Maybe you'll find it corny, or maybe you'll find it good. But I happy to chat about it anyways.
Well, I am so glad you did. And I love the story. I love, your passion. Um, and it does look like you are Pat M. Enright
Yeah,
on
probably.
Twitter. Proud
Yeah, could
Canadian,
be.
husband, father, grandpa,
Yeah,
love
there you go.
music, fishing. So, yep, that's you.
And
So,
Springsteen.
yes, absolutely. Um, so, I'm going to end with um, now out on this road tonight. I close my eyes and feel so many friends around me in the early evening light. And the miles we have come and the battles won and lost are just so many roads traveled, so many rivers crossed. And I ask God for the strength and faith in one another, because it's a good night for a ride across this river to the other side, my blood brothers. Pat, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
Amen.
Listeners, you stay safe. Remember to social distance. Remember to wash your hands, wear an effing mask, and let's all be good to each other because that's the only way we're going to get through this. Thank you.
100%.
Goodbye. Doing a podcast at times can be a one-way conversation, and I hate that. So please let me know what you like and don't like about the work I'm doing. You can reach the podcast via email at setlistingbruce@gmail.com. The show is on Twitter at setlistingbruce, and my personal Twitter is at Jesse Jackson DFW. We have a website, www.setlistingbruce.com. From there, you can find links to other Springsteen podcasts as well as other music-themed podcasts. We have a page devoted to our own SLB All-Star Band. These are guests who have been on the podcast more than 3 times. There is a link to our store where you can purchase Set Listing Bruce shirts as well as a Mary Question t-shirt. There is a link to our Patreon page where you can sign up to help support the podcast financially. We have different levels and different rewards based on your support. If you don't have any extra cash, and right now who does, you can support the podcast by subscribing via your favorite podcast player and leaving us a review. The more reviews we have, the easier it is for people to find us. And please tell a friend about the podcast, especially if they love Bruce or music, because it will make a difference.
You just heard the fun talking, hard rocking, music loving, album ranking, fan thinking, joy spreading, lyric reading, story sharing podcast that is the one, the only Set Listing Bruce. Set Listing Bruce is part of the Southgate Media podcast group. The theme for Set Listing Bruce was written by David Rosen, used by permission.